All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about in the extra time that we have, kind of this sort of an extra topic. The Illinois State Fair just concluded, last night, I guess, right? Or 2 nights ago. I'm sorry,
Sunday night. Yep.
Sunday night. So this is Tuesday, yeah. So Sunday night, and we all have experience with attending shows at the State Fair, and more recently, Levi's got experience working some of the shows at the State Fair. I was able to make it down there for the Steely Dan show on Friday night, which was great. Got to catch up with Levi for a little bit too, which was always nice. But all of us kind of have a little bit of a history with the fair, and I think for a lot of folks in Central Illinois, which, as we can all attest, like isn't always the most bustling concert market. The fair is something to really look forward to, and the tickets are always, I think, pretty reasonably priced for the most part. They always seem to be a little cheaper than what you would pay if that band was playing in a bigger market, or maybe even a different venue in Springfield or in Peoria or other parts of Central Illinois. So it's a good entertainment value for people, and it's something that a lot of folks look forward to. The State Fair concert that really stands out to me the most would be really the first concert. I would say it wasn't exactly the first concert I've ever seen, but it was certainly the first rock concert. Was when I saw Stone Temple Pilots in 1994 at the State Fair. To me, that'll kind of always be the quintessential State Fair show. Now, I know, Levi, did you go to that? Were you at that one?
No, I did not see a lot of shows in the 90s at the State Fair, and the ones I did see, I think were pretty much all country. Hank Williams Jr. a couple times, and trying to think, maybe like Sawyer Brown, I think, one year.
Right.
And the rest of my experience has been in the 2000s and later.
Yeah.
Gabe, I was at the Stone Temple Pilots show.
Right.
Yeah.
I think pretty much 3/4 of our high school was at that show.
Dude, it is totally weird because
Yes.
today I busted this out. I listened to this and probably for the first time at like 12 years.
Oh, nice.
Core, and that was like my second
Great
concert.
Great album.
Yeah. But I remember I snuck in a micro cassette recorder. Like I thought I would bootleg it, and from the grandstand. I was in the grandstand. I think everybody else was down on the track. At the State Fair, they have a track, not a lawn. And nice. I was super paranoid. I thought they were gonna bust me for trying to record it, or like patting me down on the way in. I was like 14. But yeah, I think that was the second show I ever saw.
Yeah, the Meat Puppets opened for him that
That's
night.
right.
Too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Wow.
and it was to me. And, even though I don't live in Springfield anymore, I still follow, the concerts there, and I'm always curious about who's playing, etc. That was a pretty big show for the fair to land.
It was. They were huge then. They were huge.
I mean, they were really at like the peak of their popularity. That second record, the Purple record, had just come out or was about to come out.
Yeah.
It got released that summer, I think, sometime. Mm-hmm. So, they were, because I think on that same tour, the stops would have been Riverport, Tinley Park. They would have been playing the big summer sheds. Yeah. And they had an album that was, that was selling really, really well.
Yeah.
And so, for the fair, I don't know how they pulled that one. If it's kind of one of those things, like, for them to land a rock band at like the peak of their popularity is pretty amazing.
And that's a great segue to my quintessential fair show was Velvet Revolver at the State Fair. And at the time, it was like, how did the Illinois State Fair get Velvet Revolver to play?
Right.
And they were like an hour and a half late going on stage. No one thought they were going to play. And then all of a sudden, the backdrop was the Velvet Revolver and lights. It just started flashing. Velvet Revolver, Velvet Revolver. Mm-hmm. Outran Duff and Slash and Scott Weiland. And it was just boom. It was Madison Square Garden, not the State Fair.
Right.
By the end of the show, Duff and Slash were like shirtless, and it was my quintessential State Fair show for sure.
Yeah. those guys are those guys are both really cut still as well. Like anytime seems like they're shirtless a lot of the times. Those two guys are
all the time.
Like, wow,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Those guys look really good.
They work out with Iggy Pop. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Duff is a lean machine, man. But yeah, certainly that's another show that's a surprising booking that they were able to land it. And I just, the Stone Temple Pilots show will always be kind of the quintessential State Fair show for me.
Definitely.
Just kind of where I was at. I was freshman year of high school, about to start sophomore year of high school, and just the band was so hot at that time that just it really captured like everybody's attention in the area. Like people that had good taste in music were there, people that probably had shitty taste in music were there. You know what I mean? The band was so popular that it really they transcended sort of a lot of the they had a wide spectrum of fans.
Definitely.
It's kind of like
absolutely.
It's kind of like when Pearl Jam was at their apex, at least in popularity, and really like say like 92 to 95. Like people that listen to Mariah Carey also listen to Pearl Jam. So, and that was kind of the same thing with Stone Temple Pilots. It was just huge. Everybody was there. The jocks, the nerds, the stoners. Like everybody was in full force that night.
Yeah, the Steely Dan, I would put it also in as I was surprised that the State Fair got them. And as that day while I was working, I found out from one of their roadies, it was the first State Fair that Steely Dan has ever played.
You're kidding.
Ever, in the United States.
Wow. Right. This year?
Wow. Ever, yeah.
Wow.
It's the first State Fair Steely Dan has ever played, was the Illinois State Fair. And I thought it was an excellent show, too. I got to see part of it in the stands with Gabe and then part of it backstage, and they just sounded excellent. All the musicians were excellent, and I got nothing but good things to say about that.
And they seemed into it too, like Becker and Fagan were certainly in good spirits, I mean,
absolutely.
Some people might be like, oh shit, a State Fair, but no, they were really seemed to be enjoying themselves, and certainly there was a lot of back and forth with the crowd. And, it was pretty lively.
Becker did that rap about being at a fair and like getting corn dogs. And
right.
Stuff.
Yeah. There was a corn dog rap?
Yeah, like in the middle of
it was like
in the
kind
middle
of
a
thing.
song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He did it when Levi and I saw him at Ravinia. We saw Steely Dan at Ravinia, which like they're perfect for Ravinia. It's like North Shore, bunch of people drinking wine. Like
right. Little chandeliers hanging in the trees.
Yeah. So like, and he kind of tailored it to that. He's like, oh, I know you're going home. To your nice North Shore place. Like, and it was just it's he does it, I think, at just about every show, but it's he kind of tailors it to the geography,
That's nice.
Of where he's playing. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and the musicianship, like Levi mentioned, was just really first rate. They're surrounded by some talented musicians as well. Great horn section. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, probably one of the better State Fair shows to come around in a while, I would guess.
Was there a good turnout?
Could have been better. Yeah.
The grandstand was probably maybe half full if you combined everybody, and then the track was pretty full, and so the grandstand holds around 14 to 15,000 people.
Yeah.
So if like the grandstand was half full, that's like 7, and I think the track maybe held 1 or 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they
I mean,
released the attendance figures, and Levi's right. It was like 7,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, not bad. And I looked at the rest of their tour. And I mentioned this to Levi when we were in the stands. That's probably a little bit of a bigger audience than they're playing to most nights, because when they play Chicago, and I think St. Louis as well, they play a theater. They play one of the larger. Yeah. They play one of the larger theaters in town. They'll play usually the Chicago Theater, sometimes 2 nights. Which is like about 3,500, 4,000 each night. In St. Louis, I think they played the Fox. So you're looking at like 4,000 there.
Yeah.
So the State Fair actually, while it might not have the clout of some of the other venues they're playing, it was probably a bigger audience than they've seen this tour.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. So. Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other classic rock show was Boston, April 1 week, and it was excellent as well. Boston sounded really good, and April Wine, the Miles Goodwin, the lead singer, he still sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
That was a really good show as well. I'm partial to Steely Dan, obviously, but the Boston show was just as good, I would say.
Yeah. Right on.
Nice. Yeah. I was gonna ask you guys, given confines of who they can book, which, as we mentioned, sometimes can surprise us when they get a Stone Temple Pilots or a Steely Dan. Who do you think would be a good fit for the State Fair? Like, given kind of the audience that they might be targeting, and something that would play well, as far as a rock show.
I'll start. I think you could do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think you can do. I'm sorry, I shouldn't apologize for them doing this, but
Sure.
But the Allman Brothers could do it. I think they'd be a good fit. Have like Ryan Bingham open, maybe, like a younger guy open, and then have the Allmans. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'd go to that.
Can the Allmans play like Riverport anymore? I don't know.
No. I don't think so.
That's like as close as they would get in that scenario
they're
with like
towards theaters.
Yeah,
theaters
right.
festivals.
Right. I mean, shoot, they played the Uptown here in Kansas City several years ago, so that kind of tells you that their amphitheater days are behind them. So yeah, I think the Allman Brothers and Ryan Bingham. There you go. Book it.
Yeah. I'm going to say Tom Petty. I mean, if they can book him,
yeah.
I mean, that would pack it. It would pack them in.
Yeah, definitely.
But they'd fill a lot of seats.
Yeah. If they can afford to book him, and the Heartbreakers, then that show would go over really well in Springfield. I mean, he has played Peoria a couple times within the last 10 years or so at the Civic Center. So, small markets aren't entirely out of his wheelhouse, I mean, and he's a guy, it's a band that can still pack in amphitheaters. So, there's the possibility of selling 14,000 tickets. That's at least a smaller amphitheater right there.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think he would go over well. It would, I think it would be a show that Springfield would get excited about.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know. That's one that first sprung to my mind was actually the Allman Brothers, but if I had to pick a second one, I would say maybe like, I was thinking. I just can't. They've had everybody lately. It seems like they've had all the Journeys, the Styx, the Kansases.
Right, sort of maybe, your B list, with all due respect to those bands, but yeah, second
like
tier.
Like a Dream, like maybe like an upper tier would be like maybe a big, I think, if they could sign Rush or Yes to doing a show at the fair.
Yeah,
I think they would sell some seats for sure.
Yeah, probably Rush more than Yes, I would say at this point. Just Yes is kind of fractured. John Anderson's not with them, and they're mainly playing theaters.
Yeah,
Rush is still playing arenas and amphitheaters and really well at it. Yeah, Rush would go over well, definitely, absolutely.
What about Kiss?
Yeah, good. They could. Yeah, they could. They played the Civic Center or the Convention Center 3-4 summers ago. So
they
could do it.
Convention Center.
Yeah, they could do it.
They just scale back a lot of their pyro for that show.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But,
are there limitations on
feasible.
the stage setup there, Levi?
Yeah, they don't allow, I think, any pyro there because the roof covering the trusses is like a plastic type of tarp. So none of the bands had any kind of pyro.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, Kiss occasionally does smaller shows, like they're doing like a Vegas residency here in November, where they're playing like the Joint at the Hard Rock, which is like a theater that holds maybe 2,500 people or something like that. So they can modify the scope of their show to fit a venue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they could do it, and it would draw well. The one the show at the convention center was sold out.
Was it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bob Seger would be a huge draw.
He would be huge. Yeah. That would be a big one to land because he's a guy that kind of like Petty, can still pack an amphitheater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the missus would want to go home for that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, all good suggestions. All those would play well. Yeah, gosh, any others offhand? Man,
how young can you get? I remember that they had TLC. I think my little sister went to TLC.
Yeah.
And I mean, how young do they get there traditionally?
This year, the young teeny bopper boy bands were these bands called Emblem 3, MKTO, and Midnight Red. And they I don't know, they all looked like they were maybe like 18 to 20-year-olds.
Oh, yeah, Midnight Red. Sorry, I don't know who they are.
Well, it was mainly 12 and 14-year-old girls watching 18 to 20-year-old guys dance really high-pitched and grab their crotches a lot. So, yeah.
So it wasn't like the tame stylings of the boy bands that we grew up on with Boys to Men.
There were choreographed
yeah, those were pretty PG compared to this, I guess.
Yeah. No, during the show I was a cable page, which means I follow the cameraman right at the front of the stage with the cable and just make sure he doesn't trip over it.
Right.
And so I got to see the show from front row, and they're all doing choreographed moves, and the lyrics, though, are literally, I want to feel you on top of me, and you feel like a bomb ready to explode. And it's like, what? Like, are 12 and 14-year-old girls supposed to be hearing that?
Bob Dylan couldn't have said it better. All right.
Quality lyrics.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, as far as younger acts, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of it seems like in previous years, haven't they kind of like tried to book, and I don't listen to these bands, but like a Three Doors Down, kind of your sort of generic kind of, I don't know.
I guess
post grunge. I don't know.
To show how bad that music's doing, they did not have one of those this year.
Right. Well, if they had one, they would have more of those bands on the bill. Probably, is my guess.
Yeah.
They did 2 nights of country, 2 nights of rock. One night was the $1 Million Quartet, which is kind of like a Broadway musical group. And then, here, I have the list right here. The first night was American Idol Live, and that was pretty awful. And it was the top contestants from this past. They had these huge walls set up, and they made it seem like it was a TV show. They were like pre-recorded clips of Ryan Seacrest, like, oh, this is your top 10. And they started with number 10, and they like cut them, and then they went to number 9 and cut them, and then they went to number 8. Yeah. So that was awful. Then it did not get any better. It was Pitbull, which I will say he was like really entertaining to the crowd. It was probably as big as Steely Dan gave, but it was like a giant. It was like a giant. What is it? Zumba. It was like a giant Zumba class.
Okay.
It was just like all these ladies dancing to like congas and stuff the whole time.
Right.
And then the busiest show was Florida Georgia Line, the country band. They're really hot right now. They packed the place. It was basically sold out. And then, like I said, Boston, the Emblem, the Steely Dan. The other 2 country shows were Hunter Hayes and Jake Owen. So actually, there were 3 country shows technically. And then to close out the fair on Sunday night, I think they literally, I don't even know people played, and I guess it was awful.
Who was that?
Oh, for Thick? Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'd assume most people that went to that wanted him to open and close the show with that Blurred Lines song, is my guess. Yeah.
Well, it played in the middle one time too.
Right, right. He probably
It's like
was
Whiskey
teased
River.
in and out of it all night, is my guess. Yeah. It'd been cool if Alan Thicke of Growing Pains fame was there, his father.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden he steps out and he's like, as long as we've got each other. Yeah.
Mike
Do a
Sears.
little growth thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boner comes out. You know, yeah, right. Boner.
Yeah.
It's like they've got like a tree to the side of the stage where Boner, like, how he used to like enter Mike's room that way. Like, that's what I'd like to see. Live sitcom, older sitcoms turned into a live performance. Like,
At a state
would that be a good
fair.
idea?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Wait a minute. If you hear about anybody doing that, that's my idea.
You can
all
get
right?
a few thousand
Think
of
about
that.
We
You could.
started that shit.
These actors and actresses, right, who are kind of getting older, right, could take it and they would like do a famous episode on the road. You know what I mean? Like you would do a famous episode of Who's the Boss, but on the road.
So it's just like 20 minutes. So then you have,
Yes!
is it like multiple shows?
You might have to do that. You might have to pack them in, to
So
constitute like a full performance. Yeah, it's the length of a concert.
So different shows or multiple episodes of the same show.
Different. I think you could do it either way. You know, either way would be feasible. I think.
Can you yell? Could the crowd yell out requests and like they just do a
That
scene?
might be hard. It might be hard to accommodate that.
Just
the
a
crowd,
scene.
The crowd etiquette would be you would. I don't know how to draft that right now, but
Oh, dude, can you imagine?
But yeah, that would be
the
that would be something I would-
catchphrases that would be yelled at.
yeah, right, right. I mean, it might not fit their age, like if they do the Cosby Show, does like Raven Simone, like she can't play the little girl that she did, but she's like 30 or something. So I don't know. You would have to take some liberties.
You're right. All of a sudden, it almost becomes performance art when they're reading these lines like 30 years older. There's some depth there.
Yeah, I'm in. I'd go.
All right.
So.
Right on. Does Alf age or does Alf stay the same age?
Alf, right? Alf doesn't age. No, Alf doesn't age. He doesn't have like any gray in his beard or anything,
like
or his
big,
fur or whatever.
Yeah.
He's
got a suit made of cats.
Right. Oh man, I wonder what Lynn looks like now. I'm kind of curious to you guys have got me like all night. I'll be like, what's Lynn look like? On Google Images for Lynn 2014. Yeah. Right, I'm curious. So.
The designing women they would bring in a whole nother crowd willing to spend some money as well. So.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of a touching moment for the stars that have passed. They would just like shine a spotlight and like play the dialogue, yeah. Right. Just play the dialogue from the original episode, It'd be touching, Right?
You get Betty White and she could play like all four parts, maybe. Since isn't she the last one standing? Yeah.
She's the last one, yeah, definitely. So good stuff. I'm in. I can
all right.
One of the whole skits could be like great entrances. Like
absolutely.
Said the coming in the tree, and then like Doogie Howser's best friend always came in the window.
Oh, Penny. Yeah,
Penny.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
George
like Webster didn't Webster always have something? He would come out of the grandfather clock or something.
Oh, there was a dumbwaiter that he would hide in.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mam and George.